tell me when to let go. Baby, tell me when to let go.
This is why they really fear us, because of that. Because they know that eventually one day we're just gonna know again. And that's why they have to keep putting out misinformation.
Hey, so the priesthood obviously back at that point was also very powerful. Would they have also had access to that kind of capabilities?
It would depend, because the pharaoh was the actual link to the gods. That's why bloodline is important, and because our ancestors, who were the pygmy gods, who was Nupu, in physical form, when they had sex, they blood, which is the pygmy gods' original blood type, was O positive. That was the blood of the pygmy gods.
Universal.
As we came down, and the chemical structure of gamma radiation. I told you gamma radiation mutated the pygmy gods from 9 ether Nupu to 6 ether Nupu. So their whole chemical structure started to change. So the blood types changed depending on what it was at when the 6 ether gamma radiation came out. So when they had procreated and had us sexually, that blood still was there. So all the way starting from wherever they was at on the planet. See, I'm not gonna be like these other cats who claim they know what they talking about when it comes to Egypt and Kemet. No, our ancestors was all over the planet. Their blood and the origin came from Lake Victoria.
That's South Africa, right?
I think so. If you looking at it how we look at it, in South it'll still be considered upper.
Yes,
no,
of course.
It'll be lower. But in American terms, yeah, it'll be south.
Yeah.
And that's in Uganda, where the Lake Victoria is. And I did some videos on it. Me and the Nuke broke that whole thing down, because Afrono told us where it was. But we had to figure out scientifically where and how and what would that be called today. So that's why when you hear us say, well, in Caucasian science it's called this, we have to do that so other people can go and look, because we don't have the terminology that our ancestors used at that date. Matter of fact, that's just going back a couple of dynasties. We don't have those terminologies. Back then, before the dynasties, you just did stuff. That's why they have name places when they talk about Kemet and all these ancient spots, because we didn't have to worry about the name of a thing or a place, because the whole planet was ours. We just knew how to get there and get back to where we was going. Once it started getting all these other human beings who were more separated and linear thinking, and they wasn't circular thinking and and orbital thinking, they the ones who came up with lines, and that's because they are opposite of us as a race. As a race, our ancestors, we was everywhere. It was no borders like that. But when these other more aggressive people started, once these aggressive people started coming around us on the planet, we had to set up these type of things because they was aggressive. So when we set up borders, when we set up these borders, it was for safety measures. It's like a zoo or whatever.
Yes, a boundary. We needed to put a
Right.
kind of boundary in place. Yeah.
Right, because the reason why it was the case, because mankind, like the Phoenicians and I think the Mongol and the Indian races, they descended from, I think, the Australopithecus.
Desire of the beat.
Monkey. Ape-like. It's a monkey. It's a man with ape-like tendencies. Right. And so after one into these things in the nature books, I just haven't been guided to go over there to solve all this extra stuff that the so-called Kemetic community keep arguing about. Because erroneously keep saying that we came from monkeys. That's a lie.
Listen, anybody with any kind of reasonability, as you say, would say that is emphatically incorrect.
Right. And
no way.
Show me a monkey with kinky hair.
exactly,
But
Sylvain.
I can show you mankind with straight hair, and even some mankind races, if you shave them naked, just like like some of these apes, they skin is pink and light, and all you don't see that. You can't. You're not gonna find a kinky haired monkey or ape. Now you may find people that look like monkeys and apes around the world. That's because of the brain loop gods that created different variations of imagery. You can look like something, and that doesn't mean you descended from an ape or a monkey.
Point. Yeah.
But that's a different thing. That's the same way you can find different versions of me and you on the planet.
This is it. This is it.
You see what I'm saying? Or you take it even further, you can go the zodiac sign. You can look at different people who ain't of your race, but the zodiac signs, we act the same. Totally. And we ain't got no connection with each other's parents or nothing, but because there's other things that exist on higher levels that creates a pattern, no matter what it's interacting with, that transcends race at that point. But other things, it can't extend past race. Only thing that got the same type of texture hair that we got is a sheep. And you ain't never heard a sign to say black people came from sheep, but they got woolly hair though. So they can't escape. They can't explain that.
Hey, you shave down a brown bear or whatever, and as you say, sibling, they got pink skin, right? You shave down a polar bear. What color is the polar bear's skin, sibling?
There you go. You can shave a bunch of cats. A lot of cats is pink under their fur. But that's the difference. See, they don't want to say that because then it exposes certain things. They say cats and animals and dogs, and wolves, they don't say it's hair. They say it's fur.
Fur. Thank you.
But the texture of the cat and those animals and mankind hair is the same texture. It ain't that much of a difference.
desire to be.
Just tell me when to let go. Baby, tell me when to let go.
Desire to be.
So that
It
means
is.
mankind has fur. The
There are
black
many
race with kinky has hair.
hair,
Fur
which
is
is what
something you need to cover your body to protect you from the elements. The original white race had fur on their bodies. They had hair all over. In the Asian islands, they was not from the caves of Europe. That's a misnomer. That's a lie. That's a lie. They was in the Asian islands around that water that protected their albino, see-through, translucent skin, blonde hair, and blue eyes, because had they been born in any other country around, whether Africa or Asia, the heat would have killed them. That's why they had to stay hidden for 1,000 years. They left the Asian islands because they was killing all of the dark-skinned Hindu brethren over there, and they got kicked out, and they went northward to Nod, which is Europe, and they went up in the caves for 1,000 years until the temperature of the sun or the planet went down.
relinquished. So where do we get? So some people would say, okay, you describe their genesis of sorts. So where do we get the variations outside of the blue-haired, blonde-eyed? Where do we get the ginger? Where do we get the brown-headed ones? Like, are they still?
They had dark. They had sisters. See, when the Hindu priests and nuns were having children, they was having twins. One will come out black, Dravidian, and the other one will come out albino. So some of them will be born boys and girls like that. And they was killing the dark-skinned Abel group. That's what the Abel story was alluding to. But they had female sisters that were black, Hindu, Dravidian.
Yes.
And they took them as wives, as like they tried to say that when Cain got kicked out of garden, see, they jumping over. The Adam and Eve group was in the Gulf of Aden, right? And if you look at a map, you see Aden is right up under Yemen by the coast. What the Gulf of Aden is. They took that and changed it to Eden in the Bible. When the Adam and Eve group, priests and nuns, broke the laws of the sun god Amun Ra, called Brahma to the Hindus, And I tell people every time, you want to know what the laws that Adam and Eve broke as a group? Look up a book called The Laws of Manu. They go back 6,000 years, and that was the rules and the laws that the Adam and Eve group were following. They only gave you a portion of it in Genesis when God said, "Don't do this and don't do that." Those are laws, but they only tell you God said, "Don't do this," and that's it. But the reality was, it was a group of priests and nuns that broke the laws of the sun god, and King Amenubi Re-Harakti excommunicated them all the way to the Aegean Islands, and from there they were ousted and had to stay there. And it's in the Hindu writings as well. You know, what is this guy name? It's in the Vedas and stuff, where they had a war and they had a bunch of white children of the Hindus were fighting against their great grandfather. So it's in the Hindus' writings about the Adam and Eve group and this war that took place between the dark Hindus and the white ones. And that's 6,000 years ago. And that lines up with what Afro said in the Bible interpretation and in the nature books. It's on my YouTube. Me and Anouk went through this multiple times.
Desire Beat.
About the origin of these people. And so when they left, they went to Nod, which is northward, because the Mediterranean, northward of the Mediterranean is Europe.
Yes.
See, because it's right here, and then you got Africa right here. Europe is above.
Yes.
So they went northward. See, the Bible writers knew. That's why they said they went northward, or they went, what they say, eastward or whatever.
Eastward,
right.
eastward.
They went north. That's where they went. Later on, when they came back from Europe, they stopped off in the Mediterranean. Then they went up into Asia, and then eventually came into Africa. That's when the Jews invaded Kemet in 2000 BC as the Hyksos Shepherd Kings, because they say they was Asiatics, which is true, because the Caucasian as a whole came out of the Asiatic Hindu Dravidian. That's what makes them Asiatic. Not by the country Asia, but by the people who were living in that.
Mm-hmm. All right, then, since you mentioned that term, this is going to be a fast-paced one.
Okay.
Asiatic, the term Asiatic, the great Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and our first build, you unveiled a lot of information, referenced Japan, etc.
Right.
But they have a doctrine, also the 5% nation, the gods on earth. They have a doctrine to say that the original man, the black man, the cream, the maker, owner, I can't remember the whole thing, right. The Asiatic black man, like, where are they coming with that science then?
When they say the Asiatic black man, they're talking about the Phoenician. But the Phoenician is the secondary human race to come out to our race. Now, us, if you count it from when our ancestors procreated us sexually 18 million years ago, we was on the planet by ourselves after they died off. The Phoenician, the Asiatic Phoenician, but they're not Asiatic, they're Indonesian, because they came from the equator down with Indonesia. And I wrote a book dealing with that, and I got a video explaining that. So they got the land mass wrong, and that's okay, because we were still waking up. So it's no shade toward them or the Nation of Islam or Elijah Muhammad for that matter, because he was lied to as well. But those groups of people are the Asiatic black men. We as the Ethiopian race, if you take it back to what our ancestors, and before that, we grew the universes. So when they say the maker of the universe, all that stuff, us as an ether, and the sons that were the first ones to grow the universes. See, they are the ones we came through the stars as gases and heat, because the suns is the bone of the universe. The way a baby is born, the bones form first, but the brain and heart is not there yet. But the stars are the first things that come into being after the gas has been spread out, and then it's a process of we start growing the universe, because the universe is the biggest being that exists. The universe has a stomach, the universe has genitals, the universe has heart, the universe has blood, the universe has bones, veins, you understand? Lungs, all of that stuff the universe has. So this is information. The fact that the Nation of Islam and the 5% even had inkling of information, mean that the people that gave it to them, who were Caucasian, had access to that, and they only gave a little bit and still corrupted it.
Those details here, because look how you've elaborated out more, like specifically, like the 5% brothers, they will say NG that before we became physical, it was the thought in it, and we made ourselves into, we thought ourselves and manifested ourselves into the physical reality, right?
Right. And that's just another way of talking about Nupu or brain nukes, who are the reason mentalities of the one supreme being. Nupu would be the primary, and Nupu, even though Nupu is singular in name but plural in purpose. So as part of nine mind or nine reason, that put everything in the order, the primary universes together. Those would be considered the thoughts that the 5% are talking about.
Right.
And then the Nupu are the ones who grew the universe through the star. We was there as well, then personified themselves in physical form. We were there within them, waiting to be born millions of years later, because they didn't have sex. But all of us, every black person that ever was and will be, was within their body. And it was 9 God and goddess races that carried the whole black race in them. And mankind, because when they died, the 6 ether brain nukes took their body and broke it down into the earth and changed their chemical formula and formulated the eggs that would come up to be mankind races. So this is why the ancient Kemetics or Kemites, our ancestors said that Ta, right, was a pygmy. But again, they're doing plurality in the reverse. Instead of saying it was a bunch of Tars, right, they said it was one Ta. Now you got one Ta to represent Nupu as the mental energies in the beginning, as the mind, but then it still was a plural. So then when they made a Ta on the planet, in the drawings, they only showing you one, but it was plenty. We are evolutionary Ta. We're the big version of Ta versus the small version of Ta, which is on the planet all around, like the Twa and all these other African pygmy tribes over in Africa. They more closer to them than we are, because they still the same size, because where they live at in the diet, 6 ether didn't reach them. They caused them to get bigger. That's why they still short.
And also they didn't have that that evasive contact with the other nations and stuff, you know what I mean?
Right. They just been protected mostly from evolution, because that link had to still be there. Because once we get back to Africa and time moves forward, eventually we'll start mating back with the short pygmies, and then all of our races will start dropping in stature when it's safe again, when we ain't got to worry about bigger people. And that's what our ancestors ran into over millions of years. Other human beings started to grow bigger and faster than them, and then they was able to overtake them because they were short. But we started.
Did that also have something to do with the changing of the atmosphere and all that?
Oh yeah, of course. Once the suns exploded, they started emitting that. Our sun, Jupiter, and Saturn was spitting out 6 ether on both sides of the asteroid belt. So you had our sun over here pushing 6 ether. Jupiter on this side is pushing 6 ether this way toward Mars, and the sun pushing it from its end, toward Mercury and all of that. And Saturn was pushing 6 ether toward Neptune and Uranus. So, because those are the 3 suns, and that's why so much poison all over the universe is because of that. But it's a natural thing, because Zupu lives off of things that are living and causes it to die. That's how 6 ether works. Living, that's what causes us to die, decay, get sick, get old, and die. That's 6 ether for you.
And pre. So let me just confirm this. So the Twa, they was 9 ether when they were physically manifested.
No, the Twa and other Pygmy tribes are part of the offspring of the Pygmy gods, but they're more closer to our ancestors because they didn't get any bigger.
Okay.
You understand? They still more closer in their evolutionary stage in height than we are. The further we spread out. Like, remember, our ancestors was all over the world after the 6 ether explosion. They started having children all over the continent. So they was all over the place. Those Twa and those certain Pygmy tribes are offspring of Pygmy gods who was already in that part of Africa. And they just had them, and they lived for like 6,000 years, and then they died. And they just left them. Some of them just didn't go anywhere. That's why you can go into certain parts of the world and they'll tell you, these group of people never left this area.
Yes.
They always stayed there. So that type of thing, but that was there for future. So when we make our way back and link up with them and start breeding back with them over time, millions of years.
Which is the height.
The height will start to reduce. And that show you that the planet is safer. When you got all this big stuff around on the planet, because of evolution makes things bigger, you got bigger death weapons, bigger deceptions, bigger things to watch on TV. Remember, it used to be 4 or 5 channels. Now you got 3,000. You got all this stuff.
Sibling. Come on, man.
So this is forms of evolution in various things in our surroundings, but we didn't make the connection. So this is the connection. That's why you hear people say, yeah, do it big. I'm getting it big. I'm doing it big. That's an evolutionary 6 ether term. Ghost style. Because the scientists tell you that the universe is steady expanding. It's steady getting bigger. The earth wasn't always the size that it was. These things swirl up because of death. When a body dies and you leave it out there in the elements, it swells up. That's why they keep feeding death and trash and war. And instead of burning the dead, they bury the dead to make the earth swell up to give more negative gases to the spirit forces in the atmosphere. So they can become more strong and cause problems in our everyday life. It's all connected.
On another level in that respect, the returning of the physical self to the earth, doesn't that, outside of what you just said, doesn't that then, once the decay takes place, that's nutrients in essence, take the emotion out of it. Any dead, decaying vegetable or like meat, protein is going to be food for the soil and for the worms.
To an extent, but with human beings, the slow rot is what the spirit beings is getting. See, the insects is not getting none out of that. About the slow rot.
Okay.
You see, it's a difference. Now, if nobody died on the planet, that the planet can still survive because the planet was already being prepared before our ancestors got here. You had food and all that stuff had to be here. Water had to already be here. Same thing. So if every human being that died, if they burn them, that doesn't mean the earth won't have something to feed it because insects will still be here. They die.
Animals,
They'll go animals. You see what I'm saying? That's a natural form. We're not going to get rid of that all at one time because it took a long time. About 6,000 years ago, coming forward, people stopped doing that. But even if you go all the way back to the Vikings was setting the dead on fire.
They just put them on boats. They put them on boats and burn them.
Right, and that right there was them. I know why they did it, but it still environmentally didn't make no sense because you polluting the water. With that, you know what I'm saying?
That's where the corruption comes from. The essence, the idea. Yes.
See, but the reason they did things like that is because Zupu lives off of death. So in order for death and filthiness to occur, you have to alter the people's mentality and set up what's called tradition and why they do this. To them, it was a noble thing to put somebody great in a boat, wrap them up, and then shoot an arrow off and give them a 21 gun salute.
Yeah.
You know, on a human note, you know, that's noble and all of that. But if you start adding that up and say, let's say you doing this 20 times a month, and you know, you take 20 bodies and multiply that times a year, then multiply that times. You know, when you look at it from that aspect, you like, oh, okay, this right here is too much. You know what I'm saying? Now you looking at an environmental hazard like we got right now with all the trash these cities are amassing. They don't really have nowhere to put it, and they shipping it stuff off from here and taking it to Africa and dumping it over there and dumping it over here. And people just going about their lives like they don't even aware that the trash is not being distributed properly.
Look, well, when we were youngsters, sibling, most things them outside of cleaning detergents, most things came in plastic. Before aluminum cans came in, there were tin cans and shit.
Right.
Yeah, we would go to the store and wherever, and we return those bottles and get money and shit. You could collect cans and then take them and get money for it. When they started introducing that petrochemical plastic shit, you know, which leaches all into the food and the drink and all that there. They did two things. They created an industry, number one. Then they created a secondary industry in regards to removing this new waste and recycling kind of thing, and they started to destroy our physical self. That's yeah, boy.
But this what Zupu does. It invents countless ways to kill you. That's the thing. That's the ultimate answer under what people see on a basic level. Most people just look at, okay, this company came up with an idea and they all said, okay, you're gonna create it. We're gonna get money off the waste and clean it up. These people are so stuck. They programmed that they don't realize y'all on the same planet too. But that's the power of the negative forces that control human beings to do such dumbness. And this is what we at. So when Nupu comes, Nupu now affects the orbs and planets and the moons and stuff to slowly undo what took place. And that's what's so the cataclysm is gonna pretty much knock all that stuff back and reset where the planet can then start over fresh. And because all that stuff got to be destroyed, all these nuclear nuclear plants, all these other things that they doing, drilling in the earth, taking our oil, which is the blood, you know, just all these things got to be. This mankind had to see. Remember when they show how peaceful the planet was when they started looking at when all these countries shut down for a little bit. And they start seeing how air start getting clean real quick. The earth will bounce back if every country on the planet stopped for about 2-3 years doing some of the negative stuff they doing. Do you watch the earth heal herself quick because she was doing it when they shut down for 2 years?
Yes. Facts.
That's showing you how strong she is.
While the global population continues to battle the ongoing pandemic, planet Earth has been carrying on as usual. In fact, she has been healing. The worldwide slowdown in human activity has had a number of positive effects on the environment, including decreased air pollution due to less carbon-guzzling planes in the sky and less fuel-burning cars on the road. Here's how the planet is reacting positively to the global lockdown. Air pollution levels have reduced significantly. With industrial activity slowing down because of lockdown restrictions, new satellite imagery from the European Space Agency has found that air pollution levels in China and Italy are markedly lower than this time last year. Satellites orbiting Earth found lowered air pollution over Italy and lowered nitrogen dioxide emissions over China. Air pollution levels have also dropped in the UK. In fact, some cities have seen nitrogen dioxide levels fall by up to 60% on the same period last year. Seeing this drop in air pollution shows that less traffic can quickly lead to cleaner air. Once this dreadful situation is over, we don't want to rush to go back to where we were or worse, and we can't have an accelerated return to business as usual. We can have a better, cleaner future for ourselves and the planet. Over in India, the skies in some of the most polluted cities turned beautifully blue as locals were put on lockdown. Lockdown has improved the air quality index to satisfactory levels in nearly 90% of the 103 cities. Weekly videos. People have been taking less flights. International air travel is one of the fastest growing source of climate emissions worldwide. As travel restrictions have been put in place globally, there has been a huge drop in the number of commercial flights, with many airlines grounding most of their fleet. The pandemic really has cleaned the skies, with one benefit being less air pollution levels. Previous studies found that airplane travel adds up to about 5% of global warming, so while the drop in flights might only be temporary for now, it certainly is giving our planet the chance to breathe. Animals have reclaimed land. It is clear that the lockdown of humans is helping nature and animals rediscover their natural spaces. With the lockdown, nothing is happening, and animals, be they fin whales or other marine species, are clearly rediscovering their confidence and peace, allowing them to come closer to shore. People will see animals roaming more freely during the pandemic. Since we are home, we should think about how animals are affected by human activity. We should tell ourselves that if we want to keep seeing nature, we must know how to respect it. Venice's canals have cleared up. Venice's famous canals are the clearest they have been in 60 years, thanks to pollution levels and tourist numbers in the Italian city rapidly dropping. With less boats on the canal, the once murky, gray waters are now crystal clear because the sediment is still. This has welcomed swans, fish and seabirds back to the canals. The water now looks clearer because there is less traffic on the canals, allowing the sediment to stay at the bottom. It's because there is less boat traffic that usually brings sediment to the top of the water's surface. One of the world's biggest tourist destinations, the streets of Venice are usually teeming with visitors from around the world. But, since lockdown has been put in place, nature has had the time to breathe again. The water is blue and clear. It is calm like a pond because there are no more waves caused by motorized boats transporting tourists. And of course, the giant cruise ships have disappeared. People are reconnecting with nature. One of the good things to have come out of social distancing is that we are letting the outdoors recharge us. As the nature heals, so do we humans. We've been forced to pause, slow down, reflect and appreciate the little things our gardens and local walking paths have to offer, from morning bird songs to the riot of pastel colors. There's something beautiful about reconnecting with the great outdoors, whether that's through gardening, outdoor walks or by simply sharing images of beautiful birds with others. Wherever you are, make time to reconnect with nature. It will certainly do you good.
That's natural law we're dealing with. When we're dealing with the natural law, as you say, it does what it does. When we start talking about this zoo poo thing, then we're talking about unbalancing that there.
And hey, but that's part of the Zoop. The Zoop is always finding ways to kill. And Nupu comes in as the opposite of Zupu, the best mind versus the worst mind, and find ways to live and supplement and replace what the Zoop has created for it to continue to survive and thrive.
Desire to be.